So what did everybody expect, man? You know, um, I said in my review who I wanted to win the fight. Um, I also gave illustrations, shall I say, more so examples than illustrations because I didn't draw anything. Um, but I gave examples, man, of what both fighters needed to do in order to be able to pull out the victory. And I think for the most part, both fighters did get in there and do exactly what I said that they were going to do. I said that Crusher was going to bring and apply the pressure to Ward for most of the fight. I also said that he'd be looking to counter when Ward tries to sneak in his hooks and then trying to come flush down the pipe. And he was looking to do just that to Andre Ward. What I didn't like about what Crusher did was he didn't cut off the ring the way that I thought he would. He had moments where he kind of cut off the ring and then he resorted to just following Ward around. Um, Ward, he did exactly what I thought he was going to do. I thought he was going to mix it up. Like I said, he was going to mix it up a little bit, mix up his attack. He would go inside if Crusher was looking to be dominant on the outside. When Crusher was looking to be rough on the inside, Ward was looking to back off. It looks like he took some Mayweather notes. Um, he was backing off when Crusher was being aggressive. Um, and when neither one of those options presented themselves, he tried to get creative. He went to his feints. He started trying to throw punches from angles, like I said he was going to do. Um, he began to start picking his shots well. So let's just talk about the fight itself. Really, what happened in between rounds. Um, I gave Crusher 1 through 4, man. Um, it was some moments where he could have been argue. We could argue what happened in between every round, honestly, because both guys were doing a lot of clinching. Ward was clinching in the beginning, um, and then Crusher started doing more clinching and grabbing and shoving Ward into the ropes. So we couldn't really get a clean effect of what each guy was doing punch wise, to damage the other until about the fifth. We start seeing a little bit of separation um, between Ward and Kovalev for a while until about maybe the eighth round, seventh, eighth round. I had Ward edging Crusher near I would say between the fifth and the sixth. He was edging him and making his comeback. I didn't really have him down significantly, even though he did get knocked down in the second round. Um, you got to keep applying that pressure. Like guys were saying, oh well, he got knocked down. Well, we saw Crusher get knocked outside the ring ropes. So, I mean, what effect did those punches have on him? I mean, you listening to HBO give commentary on what's happening, but you have to be able to look at the fight, for yourself and determine what's going on. So, you have to look at the footwork. You got to look at, who's establishing the jab, who's establishing the more dominant power, who's throwing the hooks, whose defense is better. Like I told you guys in the review, whoever's defense is better and whoever is the most conditioned fighter for the fight as far as being able to take punishment and also being able to adapt and gain that endurance and get through those rounds was going to be your victor. And sure enough, I mean, this guy he showed you time and time again how he's able to bounce back. Whenever times gets a little rough for him in the ring, Ward always finds a way to win. That's not to say that Crusher did not find a way to win. I just think that he didn't establish himself as the clear dominant guy throughout the fight. And he allowed Ward to get his second win, between, I would say, the sixth and the seventh. And Ward started picking him apart. He started going to the body. He started having a head to the body attack. Um, he started landing his left hook at will. And Crusher was just kind of standing there. He wasn't really moving his head. He wasn't slipping the punches. He was just kind of looking to counter Ward and throw a big shot. And when those opportunities didn't present themselves, he was frustrated. And that's exactly what the Ward's corner wanted. That's exactly what the Ward camp wanted, was for him to be visibly frustrated, was for him to have to resort to dirty tactics. And he didn't really do much. I mean, they both kind of was a little dirty, but it wasn't really much going on for the most part. They both were professional. They did clinching and grabbing and shoving each other, and some elbows were put up in the way a little too high. But other than that, it wasn't really anything too dramatic as far as being dirty in the ring. It was a really, really close fight, man. Crusher had it for a long time. I mean, for a while, he had it. Like I said, it was some sketchy rounds. Even though I gave him 1 through 4, it was some sketchy rounds between 5, 6, and 7-ish, where you could have said, you know what, I don't really know. But I gave him the Ward because he was the guy that was clearly trying to establish his game plan. He was still throwing his jab. He was still throwing a sustained attack from the head to the body. He was still moving around on his toes. He was still slipping punches. He was blocking punches. He was very, very active in what he was doing. He didn't look confused as much. He looked like he was gaining some confidence, as the fight was nearing its end. And, it was just too little too late for Crusher to really mount his comeback with at least 1 or 2 rounds where he could have edged Ward. He looked to be taking off rounds. And, Ward was in there being busy. So you got to be careful of that kind of stuff in close fights. You got to keep pressing the action. Like Pacquiao, like he'll keep pressing the action. He won't, his rounds, when he take rounds off, it doesn't look like he's taking rounds off because he's throwing punches and bunches all the time and throwing flurries at the end of rounds. That's what Oscar De La Hoya used to do to be able to win fights and steal rounds and stuff. So you got to be careful of that kind of stuff when you're a fighter that rely on your punching power, rather than the box. So he was relying on his power, to get through the Ward and the back Ward up. But, that didn't work all the way throughout the fight. It worked in some instances, but it didn't work throughout the fight. So I think the right guy won the fight. Crusher, I gave him the last round. I gave him 12. But anything other than that, man, between, I would say, like I said, man, like 6, between 5, 6, and up, he wasn't doing that great. It was too much grabbing and clinching and holding and pushing, and when you're doing that, you're knocking off too many minutes in between time, too many minutes, too many seconds. And by the time you mount up a sustained attack, you don't have that much time on the clock left. And Ward has snuck in a 2-3 punch combination on you, and the bell is ringing, and it made it look like, well, damn, what did he do? What did he do enough to be able to steal those rounds? How was he getting those rounds? He was getting those rounds because they were spending too much time clinching and hugging on each other. And once they broke apart, you had to try to, if you were a judge in this fight, you had to try to, look to see what punches they were throwing on the inside as well, because it just wasn't a busy enough fight as far as guys stringing together multiple punch combinations. So you had to, judge what was in front of you. You see what I'm saying? So they were judging what was in front of them, and what was in front of them was two guys grabbing, clinching, and throwing punches on the inside. And whoever came out on top, as far as throwing the big banger over the top, or the big banger to the body, by the time the bell rung, that was your guy that you had to say, what, this guy edged this fight. Or you could say, what, I'm going to make this round even. Because you got to look at, the way the judges are going to score. They're not going to score the way we're going to score. They're going to give some of these rounds even, to guys if they look even. And then the guy's going to have to edge his way out in the next round. You see what I'm saying? So anyway, man, that's pretty much it. Um, Ward clearly won the fight, in my opinion. I thought Crusher could have edged him, but he just didn't do enough down the stretch. He wasn't busy enough. He didn't mount up the sustained attack, the way that he was doing in the first four, maybe even the fifth round. He wasn't doing that much, like he was in the earlier rounds. He looked really dominant in the earlier rounds. He looked like he was about to put Ward to sleep, man. And he just stopped. He stopped. Well, I can't say he stopped, because Ward stopped giving him the looks that he was looking for. So you gotta also take that into account, that you can only do what your opponent is willing to give you. So anyway, man, that's it. Ward got the victory, and we move on in the boxing world. I know it's a lot of haters, a lot of guys upset. The race baiters mad, but that's another topic. Anyway, holla at your boy, man. Let me know what you guys think.